Everyone else has a secret crush on their childhood friend. I'm not like that. I just hate him. I can't stand how he messed up my clothes on purpose when we were kids. And I still remember him sticking gum in my hair during middle school. He skipped class in high school and made me take the blame for it. Everyone else's childhood friend was sweet and thoughtful. But mine felt like a random freebie handed to me when the real one was gone. Sticky and hard to get rid of. The years I've spent with him, nothing good ever happened. And all the bad moments felt like they could fill a whole sack. Thankfully, he left for another country right after high school, giving me 4 years of peace in college. But just when I thought I'd put the past behind me, I ran into the one person from my youth I never wanted to see again. Even worse news. Our family fell on hard times, and my unreliable father plans to arrange a marriage for me. My hearing might not get better, and I'd be considered partially disabled for the rest of my life. If you're not willing, cross the table. Mason kept his head down, even in his sharp, elegant suit. His self-doubt was hard to hide. Nothing of the carefree attitude he had as a teenager remained. Mason fell silent when I didn't respond. His delicate knuckles turned white from clenching. His eyes filled with visible sadness. I understand. I'll tell Samuel we should call off the arrangement. Wait a minute. I suddenly snapped back to awareness. I suddenly realized what he had just said. Did I just hear that wrong? A sudden jolt went through me, and I quickly stepped forward, only then noticing the hearing aid beneath his messy hair. Victoria, is it really entertaining to humiliate me? Mason's eyes dimmed slightly, his voice carrying a familiar edge of frustration. How did it get damaged? Mason froze for a moment. I didn't know how to use an induction cooker overseas, and I accidentally damaged it. You. I'll marry you. I'll marry you. She covered his lips before he could speak again, meeting his dazed, wide-eyed expression as she struggled to hold back her inner joy. Ever since I was little, I've never been able to win an argument with Mason. I'd say one thing, and his mouth would fire back 10 replies in a flash. Take off his hearing aid and I'd have the last word for once. Mason, are you seriously a dog in disguise or something? I pressed my hand over his lips, then glared into his blank, dazed eyes, trying hard to hide my growing excitement. It didn't budge. Instead, he moved even closer. I winced at the sharp pain and couldn't help letting out a gasp. Mason, stop moving. Get off me right now. Mason froze for a second, narrowing his eyes as he read my lips. Honey, what are you even saying? I can't follow. He didn't stop. Instead, he kept going. I give up. Can you please just put your hearing aid in? I reached for the hearing aid on the nightstand. A warm, firm hand suddenly covered mine and pulled it back, pressing insistently into my grip before pushing the device up onto my head. Mason's breath brushed against my neck, hot and close. A tingling sensation spread through me. I looked up. The man lazily lifted his eyelids, his eyes dark and deep, voice low and rough. Darling, you don't need to hear anything during moments like this. After reaching an agreement at the restaurant that day, I went straight to the civil affairs office with Mason to register our marriage. But I kept a little caution, after all. This was just a strategic alliance, ultimately just a mutual arrangement for practical benefits. Helping my family through the crisis should be enough. Did I really have to give up my whole life to him? I don't actually like him. 5 years was the agreed limit. Mason was pressured by his parents into getting married, and publicly needed a composed and respectful wife. And he turned out to be the most suitable choice I could find among all the arranged marriage prospects. Mutual benefit. When usefulness ends, the connection ends. Mason readily agreed and signed the agreement. On their wedding night, I lay on the red wedding bed and finally felt a wave of nervousness. I hadn't thought things through completely. He wanted a wife, and I needed an alliance. This wasn't just play acting, it was a real marriage. Did we really have to go through with something like that? Lost in my thoughts, the sound of shower water faded away. Mason stepped out from the bathroom, wearing only a towel around his waist. Steam rose gently as his damp hair clung to his forehead, droplets still trailing down his chest and along his defined abdominal lines. A warm mist filled the air. His hair hadn't been dried, still damp and clinging to his forehead, with droplets trailing from the ends. Water ran down his chest, tracing the lines of his defined abdomen. Taking a closer look, Mason still had that classic V-shaped physique. Strong, athletic build, remarkably toned. Before I could look further, Mason took a step toward me. My heart skipped a beat. He couldn't possibly be. I swallowed hard. Was it really happening so soon? Mason, I don't think I'm ready. As he stepped past me, I shut my eyes tightly and gripped the edge of the blanket. A breeze swept through the room. The touch I was dreading didn't come. The closet beside me stood wide open. Mason held a blanket and gave me a light smile. I'll sleep in the next room. Disgusted by me? I glanced down at myself. Though I wasn't small still, this felt like a clear insult. Mason, are you saying I'm too small? A wave of hurt pride rose up inside me. Mason didn't turn back. What do you mean? This arranged marriage wasn't just my choice. Are you really looking down on me? I at least have a C. You know. Is it really that small? So you're much bigger then? She launched into a flurry of words. But Mason didn't even turn around. One more step and he'd have been across to the next room. I was so angry I nearly saw red. I shot up from the bed and lunged at his back. Stay with me and fulfill our duties as a married couple. Mason looked completely confused, and I kicked the towel off his waist. At that moment, my thoughts were thrown into chaos as I lay in bed. That's when I realized he wasn't deliberately provoking me. He hadn't even been wearing his hearing aid at all. My marriage to Mason turned out to be happier than I expected. We've known each other for a long time. Plus, when we got married, he was already the company's heir. Constantly busy and hard to see during the day. All I had left were quiet moments and a platinum card. Mason finished the last sip of his porridge, stood up, adjusted his cufflinks, then picked up the file beside him before heading out. I looked up from my bowl and said, "You've been really busy lately." The clock nearby showed it was only 8 in the morning. Back when we'd finish breakfast together, Mason usually stayed home for a bit, reading the newspaper or chatting with me before heading out. Mason adjusted his tie and walked to the door to put on his shoes. My dad's got a project that's coming up fast, so I'm going in to keep an eye on things. Dad. He usually says that when he means my father. When I counted the time, it had been 4 years since we'd started living together. He's still putting in full effort to help my father. Then I remembered that agreement and spoke without thinking. Our arranged marriage is nearly at the agreed time. There's no need for you to keep working so hard for him. Mason paused mid-reach, his hand still on the door. The air grew still. True. Our marriage began as an agreement, but the past 5 years have been real and meaningful. It feels like I'm suddenly treating someone as useful only to discard them afterward. I was just about to explain that I didn't mean it that way when Mason spoke up quickly first. I've been really busy lately. Let's talk about this later. Oh right. I have a trip tonight. Let's chat on WeChat if anything comes up. Before leaving, I noticed him awkwardly adjusting his hearing aid. At that moment, my heart felt as if a silver needle had pierced through it, sending sharp waves of unease. He was feeling insecure again. Insecure about his hearing issues. Did he just think I was looking down on him because of his disability? I originally planned to end the agreement after 5 years. But over these past 4 years, everything has been going really well between us. As long as Mason isn't traveling for work, we're pretty much together every day. On days when there wasn't much going on, Mason would often join me for shopping trips, outings to the amusement park, or weekend getaways. First, I never really thought of him as my husband. We'd known each other since childhood, true lifelong friends. Being together never felt awkward or forced in any way. After spending so much time side by side, I sometimes found it hard to adjust to nights when he wasn't holding me while we slept. Right now, for example, lying alone on the vast, empty bed, staring at the blank message window on my phone. For no reason, I felt a bit restless inside. I'd just been told earlier today that we'd chat on WeChat if anything came up. It's already been 3 hours since I sent my message, and there's still no reply. Come on. What if he got hit by a car? My whole body jolted, and I shot straight up in bed, startled. Last Lunar New Year, Mason and I didn't go back to either of our parents' homes for the holiday. Instead, we stayed at home and cooked a simple little hot pot together. Afterward, the two of us wrapped ourselves in a long scarf and went out for a walk. When we saw some candied hawthorns by the roadside, I teased him to get me some. Mason poked his head out from the scarf, wrapped me back up snugly, and told me to stay put while he went to buy it. It was just a single street away, nothing serious. No one could have guessed that on that day, a car suddenly lost control. Mason wasn't wearing his hearing aid and was walking toward me, smiling and waving the candied haw in the air. If it hadn't been for Mason suddenly breaking into a quick jog at the last moment, I couldn't even bring myself to think about what might have happened. He had no idea how close the danger had come. He was still grinning like a kid who just found treasure. He shoved the candied haws into my hands, saying he'd picked one of each kind so I could eat as much as I wanted. My dad never even bothered to buy me candied haws. Mason wished he could pluck the stars from the sky and give them to me. I couldn't tell if I'd been startled by some sudden surprise that day, or if it was just how beautifully Mason had smiled under the streetlight. My heart gave an unexpected skip. Mason's a good person now, even if he wasn't back then. Though he was quite a troublemaker back in his younger days. Beep beep. My phone buzzed, snapping me back to reality. Mason frowny face just got out of a meeting. What's up? My racing heart finally settled back into my chest. I suddenly felt like I needed to say something face to face. I should tell him face to face. When I arrived in Yoon City, it was already early morning the next day. There were no flight tickets available at night, so I took the nearest high-speed train. After getting off, I learned the exact location from Mason's assistant and rushed there right away. What should I say when I see him? Going on like this seems not so bad. Mason would be a good partner for everyday life. We know each other well. Even though he can't hear. Whether we like each other or not doesn't really matter much for someone like us. I think I might actually be okay with spending my life with him. His abs feel great to touch. His face is nice to rest my hands on. His lips are easy to kiss. And if I take off his hearing aid, I can say anything without him knowing. Could any other man hear me talking behind his back and just stay silent? I think only Mason could truly meet my expectations. Suddenly regretted not being more cautious back then. I wonder if Mason would even be willing to cancel the agreement and start a real life together with me. Finally gathered the courage to head upstairs. Reached into her coat to pull out her phone. Ready to call Mason. A familiar voice came from the shadowed side of the hallway. Hey. Getting addicted to pretending you can't hear. What do you mean pretending to be deaf? I stopped in my tracks, slightly turning my head as a familiar face came into view. He was Mason's close friend. I'd met him before when he brought me to a gala event. Mason was facing away from me, casually holding the hearing aid he'd just taken off his ear. Half of his expression swallowed by shadow. Yet his tone carried a quiet smile. Only if I pretend to be deaf can she truly be herself. But your hearing was back to normal months ago. Can you really keep hiding it from her forever? We'll see how it goes. Sure, buddy. But you should probably tell her soon. After all, you're married. Keeping secrets like that isn't a good idea. A wave of dizziness washed over his mind. He didn't catch the rest of what was said. Seemed like a meeting, and the two of them walked off side by side. I slipped into the nearby fire room to process what they just said. Mason's hearing has improved. He kept it from me so I could be myself without restraint. He doesn't like wearing his hearing aid at home. I thought he found it annoying and took it off to focus better on work. Who could have guessed his hearing was starting to come back? I always thought he didn't wear his hearing aid at home because he couldn't hear. Which is why he'd act so freely. So does that mean he heard me belching loudly in the living room? Even worse. All those playful jokes I made in bed must have been heard by him too. Right? I was rushing to the airport, ready to head home. Mason's phone suddenly rang. Assistant said you came looking for me? Almost forgot. I did ask my assistant about his location earlier. I froze mid-step toward the airport, then blurted out something random. Just killing time at home. Decided to come here for a quick trip. That's quite a coincidence. I gripped my phone tightly, eyes fixed on the tip of my shoe. Mason's face flashed into my mind again without warning. After all, that was exactly what I had come here for. But the things I said in bed. He must have heard every word. Never mind. After all, we're still officially married. What's wrong with a little private talk between spouses? Is it illegal? Or would we get in trouble with the authorities? I gave myself another mental boost, took a deep breath, and then spoke. I'm at the airport. Come pick me up. I still overestimated my emotional strength and nerve. When Mason appeared in front of me, I couldn't help but feel flustered. Feeling hot? Looking up. The man was wearing that same dark gray suit I'd seen him in earlier by the hallway. His presence exuded quiet elegance with a relaxed air. He must have come straight from a meeting. He took the suitcase from my hand and, with his other arm, gently guided me close, positioning himself to shield me. I'm leaving tomorrow, but I'll stay here overnight. Can you come back home with me tomorrow? He glanced at the traffic light and gently lifted one corner of his lips, as if in good spirits. I pressed my face into my scarf, feeling inexplicably uplifted by his presence, and nodded in agreement. Late at night, after showering, I slipped into Mason's bed. I still feel warmer sleeping next to Mason. I wrapped my arms around his waist and pressed myself deeper against his chest. It was the familiar citrus scent, Mason's natural fragrance. It smelled really pleasant. Every time I rested against him, I felt a little more at ease and relaxed. I couldn't help but hug him tighter and breathe in deeply. I didn't realize the warmth from the person beside me was gradually rising. By the time I noticed, I was already pressed beneath him. The air felt thick and dreamy. Our noses were nearly touching. Our breaths mingled, slightly uneven and quickened. I've mentioned before, Mason knows how to kiss. From my forehead to my eyes, nose-bridge lips, and collarbone. It felt like a gentle current running through me, sending shivers with each touch. A mix of restraint and deep desire. I opened my eyes, dazed and drawn closer to him without realizing it. Mason, I want you. I suddenly snapped back to reality. My legs, which were wrapped around his waist, went stiff in an instant. I suddenly remembered what he had said to his brother in the hallway. Mason could hear it all. He was listening the whole time. I stared at him, focused on his work as if completely unaware of everything around him. I bit my lip hard, forcing down the words I hadn't finished saying. Fake guy. Does he enjoy pretending all this time? It's just acting, anyone can do it. I closed my eyes again, my tense body slowly relaxing, my lips sealed shut in silence. Mason fiddled around for a while, clearly uneasy but unable to reveal he'd been listening. He kept going with his actions, unable to show he could hear anything. In a daze, he gently pulled my hand and placed it on his chest, his eyes glistening with moisture, like a young man who was both innocent and fiercely intense. Memories of things I'd once said came rushing back. "You're amazing. Darling. Darling, I'm here." I couldn't help but think back to what I once said. Enough. I clenched my teeth tightly, holding on to the last bit of control. Mason seemed determined to match me step by step, his eyes glistening with intensity, fixed on mine, while his movements grew more forceful. I couldn't hold back any longer. I opened my mouth, but I suddenly changed my tone. "Hey, Mason. Are you not doing as well as before?" I could tell he went stiff beneath me. He kept going anyway, tilting his head with a blank look, eyes locked on my lips as if asking what I was saying. I held back a laugh. "I mean, you're really not that good." He could only glare, unable to respond. "Oh, you must not have your hearing aid on, can't hear a thing. I really feel like trying someone new. We've been together for so long it's getting dull. Now I kind of like the quiet, young type, sweet, energetic, and tender." Mason's expression grew darker, pretending not to understand as he asked what I was muttering about. Before I could say anything else, he gently rested his head against my neck. He pressed his face into the crook of my shoulder, not wanting to hear more. He didn't want to listen anymore. A quiet moment of hesitation, someone pretending not to hear, but feeling it deeply. That night, the man who played deaf carried a heart quietly broken by silence. With my eyes closed as Mason helped me get dressed, I couldn't help but notice how tender he was, so much like a devoted partner. I couldn't help but remark again how the shy, self-conscious Mason really gave off strong husbandly vibes. "Honey, should I wear these black heels with red soles, or the nude ones?" Mason knelt on one knee, waiting for my instruction. Back when he was truly deaf, maybe that's when he was genuinely insecure. But now? Is he still just a pitiful stray? Or has he turned into someone far more calculating? I rested my chin on my hand, watching him with calm amusement. Mason turned his face away, his cheeks flushed. I gently placed my smooth, pale toe on the front of his belt, sliding it upward slowly, across his chest, thigh and shoulders. I lifted his chin slightly, observing the convincing expression on his face and the faint redness at his ears. A soft, light laugh escaped me. "Pick one for me." The high heels didn't quite match, and Mason's pants zipper came undone. "I'll go change into something else. Back in a moment to help you with your shoes." That was quite something. I gave my head a little shake, hooked the nude pair, and tossed them aside. Mason seems to prefer these black ones with red soles. Mason. After he had led me all the way back home from Cloud City, I suddenly remembered something important. I recalled that I had meant to talk to him about the agreement earlier. I'd completely forgotten about the important matter. Even after all that had happened. Let's talk about the prenuptial agreement for the next 5 years. I pulled out the crumpled agreement from the drawer. I didn't notice that Mason, who had turned halfway around, had spun back to face the other way. "Mason." No response. I raised my voice again. Still no response. Just silence. I glanced back and saw his hearing aid lying carelessly on the table. Taken off at some point I didn't notice. I picked up the hearing aid and quickly slipped it into his ear. "Put this on, I need to talk to you." I slammed the agreement onto the table, only to find Mason still standing by the entrance. He kept struggling to hang his suit properly, over and over again. He clearly heard me, yet pretended not to when I brought up the agreement. Could he actually want to cancel it and keep living with me? A quiet thrill ran through her heart. But she decided to tease him a little. She suppressed the rising curve of her lips and deliberately stretched out her voice. 5 years are almost up. I'm starting to feel like we might not be such a good match anymore. Nothing changed. No reaction at all. Didn't I just put the hearing aid on him not long ago? Huffing and puffing. I kicked off my high heels and rushed to stand in front of Mason, yanking his tie roughly. Keep touching. You're going to wear a hole in the suit with all this fiddling around. Aren't you even listening when I'm talking to you? Mason looked completely puzzled, pointing at his hearing aid as he spoke flatly. Seems to be broken. All right. Keep pretending. I reached for my phone, ready to type out a message. A flicker of unease passed through Mason's eyes before he grabbed the suit from the rack and hurried out the door without looking back. I'm heading out right now to get my hearing aid fixed. Let's talk later if anything comes up. Oh, by the way, there's a meeting at work I might need to attend tonight. I won't be coming home for dinner, so no need to wait for me. That excuse felt strangely familiar. No way. Does he really care that much about me? Not just tonight. For a whole week. Mason didn't come home at all. He'd just send vague replies like, uh-huh, or, yeah. When I called, he'd say the signal was bad as soon as we hit certain topics. I felt drained, like I'd run out of energy and options. I just didn't feel like playing games anymore. But then I realized, I might actually miss him a little. I couldn't wait to see him again. Standing at the bottom of his office building with a thermos in hand. My palms started to sweat on their own, making my hands slippery, so I kept switching which one held it. I felt a strange sense of nervousness. I couldn't quite figure out why. The past 5 years since I married Mason, we've lived like any ordinary couple. We attended banquets together, traveled abroad side by side, and celebrated holidays as a couple. Yet whether holding hands tightly or sharing deep conversations, we never said those 3 words. We silently treated all these actions as part of a marriage of convenience. No matter who the arranged partner was, wouldn't anyone do the same? That's what I believed at first. The moment I realized that Mason's absence filled my thoughts every single day. Mason, who would always stand on the inner side when crossing the street with me. Mason, who naturally wrapped his arms around me while we slept. Mason, who would quietly get up and dress me when I didn't want to wake up in winter. Mason, who kept preparing breakfast every morning even though I always wanted to stay in bed. Before I noticed, Mason had already become a part of my everyday life. I just couldn't help but feel. The way life unfolds with someone is truly never the same. Staring at the soup I just prepared, my confidence suddenly slipped away. I hadn't set foot in a kitchen in what felt like forever. What if it tastes so bad Mason ends up spitting it out right there? Maybe I should have just ordered takeout from a restaurant instead. But I'd already made it down to the building. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. Fine. If he drinks the soup I made, that's his good fortune. Others would give anything just to taste it. I reached the door of Mason's office. Just as I was about to open the door, I heard an argument coming from inside. Are you out of your mind? Do you have any idea how much money Victoria's father cost us last time? It was his business partner speaking. That project was a bottomless pit. Don't you see what he's pushing you to invest in? You're just sitting there taking the losses without a word. He's Victoria's father. Can you really be this blind because of personal feelings? How many times have we been through this? Just count how many times now. His voice rose sharply. A glass cup shattered somewhere in the office. If you're set on investing in this project, then I'm calling it quits. Just pretend I never was your partner. Frustration echoed through the office building. The door slammed shut with a loud bang. The partner left. Mason stayed inside, still going over project details with someone, as if the recent argument had never happened. But he never said a word to me about it. My father had secretly asked him to meet so many unreasonable demands behind my back. Employees passing by were still whispering quietly among themselves. Here they go again. Feels like they're arguing every day. If Mason keeps this up, won't our company fall apart? This isn't something we little workers should worry about. Come on. Let's just move along. Imagine dating someone like Mason. So focused on emotions it's almost distracting. Such a greedy girl. Wanting everything at once. I had no idea. I thought Dad always greeted me with a smile when I came home because my marriage helped save his company from that crisis. Turns out it wasn't just that one time. It was every single time. Every single time over the past 5 years. I can't believe I still had hope for that kind of father. It was absurd. A sound came from the other side of the hall, and Mason appeared. He saw me. I casually tossed the thermos into the trash bin in the stairwell. Honey, what are you doing here? Did you eat? Let me take you out to get something. Mason smiled warmly and instinctively reached for my hand. I took 2 steps back. His hand missed its target. The smile froze on his face. I can't ignore the fact that you're deaf. Mason, the agreement is over. We're getting a divorce. How dare you? Mason has treated you well. Why are you even thinking about leaving him? As I just stepped inside the house, a sharp pain shot through my forehead, and then a thick liquid trickled down my cheek to my lips. It had a strong, unpleasant taste. I stared at the shattered ashtray beside me, my expression blank as I turned to face the man before me. He was the one I had once poured all my effort into winning approval from. I couldn't help but ask, Dad, do you still care about me at all? I've never met my mother. The day I was born happened to be her Memorial Day. From the moment I could recognize people, I always liked walking close behind my dad. When he was younger, he used to buy me toys, lift me high into the air, and tell me fairy tales. I truly believed I had a father who deeply cared for me. But when exactly did everything start to change? As I entered middle school, my facial features gradually became more defined. A friend of my dad once said, "You're growing more and more like your mother." From that moment on, the way he looked at me changed. The blame for my mother's death was unfairly placed on me. Late submission fees for school documents. Parent-teacher meetings I attended alone, with no one beside me. Missing out on family activities meant to strengthen our bond. We're not short on money at home. Dad just used being busy as an excuse. He's so harsh. Harsh enough to only give me a brief time in elementary school. Then he just pushed me away without warning. He didn't say a word. I spoke again. Am I just a tool in your social game? Someone you use to gain favors? I'm arranging for you to marry Mason. Aside from his hearing issues, what's not good enough about him? How am I treating you like a commodity? He still didn't seem satisfied. He grabbed the glass from the table and threw it hard onto the floor. It was hard to tell if he was releasing frustration or trying to hide his unease. He thought I had no idea about his secret plans. Because the first marriage candidate was Mason, and he was immediately confirmed right there on the spot. That's why there were no other potential marriage partners afterward. He had contacted so many agencies by phone. There was an older man with a round belly, well past 50. Then there was a young master known for being ruthless and struggling with health issues. There was also a man who identified as gay but was forced by his parents into an arranged marriage. Looking at the man before me, someone once familiar, now utterly strange, I laughed until tears welled up at the corners of my eyes. I kept trying to speak up and expose him. I wanted to confront him with firm moral authority. I wished for him to lower his head and admit he was wrong. I wanted to ask if he knew I'd struggled with depression during college, hoping he'd feel real concern for me. All I wanted was based on the fact that we were father and daughter. It didn't matter anymore. Wiping my tears, I pulled out a document from my bag and slammed it onto the table. Here's $5 million as compensation for raising me. From now on, we're cutting all ties. When bad luck strikes, even drinking can go wrong. Tossing the empty wine bottle aside, I staggered forward, only for my high heel to get stuck in a sewer grate. Gritting my teeth, I tugged for ages but couldn't free it. So I just gave up and let things be. I staggered backward, expecting the usual chill, but instead, I fell into a warm embrace that smelled of citrus. Get up. Didn't I tell you to stop calling me? It was Mason. His voice was cold, yet held a faint edge of anger. He was clearly upset with me. His hands were so cold, I couldn't help but nuzzle my face against them. The drink tastes terrible. I pouted, complaining. The night breeze passed by, and the alcohol kept swirling in my mind. As Mason pulled me forcefully, I felt dizzy and my stomach burned with discomfort. I feel like I'm going to be sick. Mason looked down at his suit, now stained with what I had vomited, and his face turned pale in an instant. I remembered he had a strong preference for cleanliness. Sorry, Mason. I messed up your suit. I reached out to help clean it up. Mason suddenly pulled me away from him, keeping a good distance between us. He quickly took off his suit jacket and tossed it without hesitation into the nearby trash bin. That suit was 80,000 yuan. Meeting his warning look, I nervously lowered my voice. After all, it was me who made a mess. Hold out your hand. Mason kept a serious expression as he pulled out a handkerchief and started wiping my hands. He wiped each finger quite firmly. Mason, are you upset because I stained your suit? I stared through teary eyes at my 10 delicate fingers, now all red and swollen like little pig's trotters, and couldn't hold back a sudden cry. It's just one suit. Do you really have to be this petty? You don't love me at all. Then why did you marry me? Why are you treating me like this out of pity? I struggled fiercely. Mason held me down like I was a stubborn pig at the New Year festival. After struggling for a while, he finally managed to secure me tightly, and I finally calmed down. My eyes were red from crying. He pressed his finger against my forehead, squinted slightly, and let out a dry laugh. You don't love me? Did all the long talk you gave me this afternoon vanish with just one bottle of wine? The world suddenly flipped upside down. Mason lifted me up upside down, his grip firm and unyielding. Wait until I get you home, we'll have a proper talk. I got exactly what I deserved. When I woke up, I found myself in clean new pajamas, with the smell of food drifting from the other room. No wonder he's such a good husband. He really knows how to take care of things. Clutching my head, which felt like it was splitting open, I barely managed to start calling out Mason's name. The next moment, a cup of warm water pressed gently against my cheek. Looking up, I met Mason's cool gaze, and an uneasy feeling washed over me. He was upset. We'd already agreed on this yesterday afternoon. Mason didn't get angry often, but when he did, it was nearly impossible to calm him down. Thinking about my own comfort, I didn't hesitate. I pulled back the covers and slid into Mason's arms. I rubbed my cheeks gently against his chest. Mason, I'm sorry. I lowered my head to show I was truly regretful. He wouldn't stay cold toward me for long. I straightened up slowly, carefully moving my lips toward his. A little closeness might help things move faster. His firm index finger pressed against my lips. Mason's eyes sharp and his tone leaving no room for debate. Victoria, don't change the subject. Repeat what I told you yesterday at noon. Well, there was no way out now. Her body went limp, sinking back onto the bed. She kept her eyes closed, recalling each word slowly and clearly. Once you've taken care of your father's matters, call me, I'll be waiting at the door. Mason's expression remained calm. Is that all? You can rely on me completely. Use me however you need to, and even hurt me if you must. She squeezed her eyes shut tightly, her voice growing quieter with each word. Is that all? And Victoria, I couldn't bring myself to say it. Talking about feelings like that always makes me feel too shy to speak. After I told Mason I wanted a divorce at noon yesterday, I had already decided to walk away right then. I was just about to break down in tears if I stayed even 2 seconds longer. But Mason didn't listen to my protests. He pulled me straight into his office, firmly held my chin in place, and forced me to look into his red-rimmed eyes as I said the divorce again, claiming I looked down on him for being deaf. I'm not an actress. Where would I even get such a skill? Mason is truly sharp. No wonder he's such a skilled businessman. After locking me in the office, he quickly checked the security footage from my previous location and discovered that I had heard every word of his conversation with his partner. There wasn't even a chance to create any misunderstanding. He quickly exposed my facade without hesitation. It was quite embarrassing. The vulnerability I'd kept hidden for years was revealed to Mason. But it was also surprisingly fortunate. After seeing the true me, Mason still firmly took my hand. I once longed so deeply for my father, someone who had walked away, to glance back at me. Even if it was just a token of pity. Even if it was only a trace of sympathy. But all he left behind were repeated moments of abandonment. And when I was at my weakest, he plunged me into a deep struggle without help. I cried. I complained. I begged. None of it made a difference. My mental health made me smile on the outside. But I was constantly struggling inside. Victoria. A voice cut through the gap in time. I saw a blinding flash of light, so intense it made me instinctively squint. Yet I still wanted to see where the sound was coming from. 8-year-old Mason, wearing an motorman suit, grabbed my hand while I looked miserable, holding a firecracker and saying he'd take me fishing. But it landed right in the nearby outhouse. The explosion covered both of us in mess. 15. Mason, full of nonconformist style, fought someone else on my behalf, only to accidentally spit a piece of gum directly onto my head, forcing me to cut off the long hair I'd just grown. 18. Mason in his awkward school uniform looked at me with hesitation before the college entrance exam, then silently left for another country without saying goodbye. Now, 30. Mason crossed through time and space, still wearing the Butterbear apron I bought for him, just finished cooking dinner for me. He gently pulled me into his arms, speaking in a tone as soft as soothing a child. I love you. Mason encouraged me to learn how to rely on him. I didn't understand. Usually, he dressed me, fed me, and helped me bathe. He was practically doing everything for me already. What else could I possibly depend on him for? But when he looked up at me with eyes full of emotion, he said it still wasn't enough. I wanted to argue back, but my body felt weak. There was nothing I could do except follow his wishes. Half a year later, he took me to live abroad, and the company's main operations moved overseas as well. I knew all along he didn't want me to meet my father. Ever since we openly declared our relationship was over, he started spreading rumors about me behind my back, calling me an ungrateful daughter. The more hurtful the words were, the more he said them. Mason handled many things behind my back, but I still couldn't avoid hearing a few rumors and harsh comments from others. Then he said, "How about we move abroad together?" I couldn't help but remember what he'd said. Just rely on him a little more. Then let me rely on him a bit more. Leave all the decisions to him. He'll handle the planning, and I'll just enjoy life. Mason made me believe once again that a person's temperament is shaped by how they're treated. Afterward, I couldn't help but think about that old wound, how he suddenly left for another country without warning. He had been gone from my life for a full 4 years. Looking at the man beside me, his face full of satisfaction as he kept leaning into me and nuzzling gently, a wave of frustration surged inside me. "Hey, why'd you kick me?" Mason lay sprawled on the ground, looking up at me with a confused expression. "Did I not do well just now? Let's try again." He wasn't ready to give up. He insisted on doing it all over once more. I couldn't believe him anymore. I pushed his lips away with my index finger and spoke sharply. Why didn't you even say hello after the college entrance exam before suddenly leaving for another country? Why did you cut off contact completely once you were abroad? For whole years. I only ever saw a quick greeting from him during holidays. Most of the time. He was so distant it wasn't even like being friends. Don't you remember what you said in your second year of high school? Mason's bright eyes suddenly dimmed, and he looked like a sad little dog. What did I say? I really don't remember. You said you had a crush on the class monitor and planned to confess after the college entrance exam. Oh. Maybe there was something like that. I was so caught up in thought I didn't notice the hint of sadness in the dog's voice beside me. What does the class leader look like again? Do you have a photo? I nudged the dog beside me with my elbow. Didn't connect. Just hit empty space. I turned around. Mason was standing bare-chested 2 paces away from me, arms crossed and facing the balcony. Crossing his arms and standing with his back to me on the balcony. This is trouble. Mason usually spoils me, but when he gets jealous, he can really make a scene. I never thought someone would ever come into my life, which felt as empty and barren as a desert. He didn't forcefully pull me out of that emptiness. Instead, he calmly sat down beside me. He gently placed his woven cap on my head, shielding me from the harsh sunlight. Then he pulled out a shovel from behind him and gave me a knowing smile. He asked, "Could we grow flowers here?" I insisted. Flowers just can't grow in a place like this. But he didn't believe me. He was determined to give it a try. Trying is one thing, but the outcome might be more serious than expected. How could flowers possibly bloom in the desert? They're blooming. I jumped off the bed barefoot, and Mason instantly reached out to hold me without hesitation. Mason. They're blooming. I gently took off Mason's hearing aid and leaned up to kiss his left ear. Mason, I love you. Sweet words whispered into his left ear. This time, we've made our feelings clear. We'll never drift apart. Mason's side story. After being abroad for 3 months, his hearing was damaged. It was kind of funny. I just miss Victoria's custard tarts a little. I looked up online instructions to try making them, but the electric stove ended up blowing up. The doctor said that if it had been a bit stronger, my head might have exploded. I don't know why, but hearing that made me feel oddly relieved. Thankfully, only my ear was affected. I still have a chance to see Victoria someday. Victoria. Looking at my head wrapped tightly in bandages, I felt a sudden wave of sadness. Victoria likes guys who are good-looking. She especially liked guys who were as fair-skinned as the class president. Could I have been scarred for life? I was probably worrying too much. Victoria doesn't like me anyway. Whether I'm scarred or not, she wouldn't care either way. I never expected to run into a high school classmate at an international exhibition. Her words hit me like a sudden thunderclap. Where's Victoria? Why didn't she come with you? What do you mean? Come with me? Why would you ask something like that? Seeing my confused expression, the old classmate's cheerful face froze, then creased into a frown. Don't you know how she feels about you? Isn't she the one who likes the class monitor? I didn't even realize it myself. My voice was trembling at the end of my words. What monitor? She's been copying Sophia's way of talking. Sophia and the class monitor are already parents of 2 kids. I still wanted to ask a few more things. My old classmate's phone rang, and after a quick goodbye, they hurried off. What else was there left to ask? Didn't I already understand everything in my heart? I never thought something like this, missing out on someone because of a misunderstanding, could happen to me. I'm bold enough to speak my mind, take action, and ask anything. But whenever it comes to Victoria, I suddenly become silent. I gave myself a sharp slap across the face. I booked the next available flight. I dialed my father's number. Dad, it's time for you to step down. I'm coming back to take over the family fortune. Before he could respond, I hung up. Someone who can't speak isn't worthy of true love. I won't miss my chance with Victoria a second time. Victoria becoming my wife happened so smoothly it felt almost unreal. Her family was planning an arranged marriage. I thought she wouldn't have anything to do with me now, especially after my hearing was gone. But suddenly, she grabbed my ear right there, her eyes shining with fierce determination. I'll marry you. I'm marrying you. We got our license. Now I have a wife. My wife wants to sign an agreement with me. Wait. Why is it a divorce agreement that ends after 5 years? No. I don't want this at all. Not like this. Oh well. After all, I'll definitely find a way to keep her by then. Victoria moved into my house. But I could clearly sense something had changed about her. There was something different about her. She even started waking up early to cook for me, help pick out my clothes, and would give in when we disagreed. She didn't act like a wife, more like a caretaker. It was overwhelming. Who turned my wife into this? I sent someone to look into her past 4 years. The moment I got the medical records, my hands trembled uncontrollably, and my heart ached as if someone was slowly slicing it open with a knife. Seasonal affective disorder. How could Victoria have this condition? How could she be feeling so down? During the 4 years I was away, what exactly did she go through? After learning the truth, I couldn't bring myself to face it. Those things Victoria never brought up to me on her own. I kept wanting to confront her father, even imagining giving him a severe beating. But every time I went home with her, the look in her eyes when she saw her dad still held warmth. She was a daughter who deeply longed for love, reaching out to her father with quiet yearning. I slowly unclenched the fist I had been holding tight. My reason told me I couldn't hurt the person Victoria cared about. I wouldn't do anything to hurt Victoria. Not even a single thing. I started helping her father with projects, whether they were losing money or extremely difficult. As long as Victoria's dad could greet her with a smile when she came home and make her feel even a little happier. I'd do it all. I'd do it without hesitation. No matter what it took. I was willing to go through with it. Thankfully, I had the entire Fae group at my disposal. I can use them all however I want. The moment I realized my hearing had improved, I jumped with joy and just wanted to run home and tell Victoria. Her husband isn't deaf. But the next second, I thought about Victoria's condition. Over these years, she's actually been doing much better because of me. She loves sleeping in late. She enjoys eating hearty meals. She'd get annoyed and yank off my hearing aid to give me a piece of her mind. She'd act all smug, thinking I had no idea. But I could tell exactly what she was saying just by watching her mouth movements in reverse. Oh well. I put the hearing aid back into my ear, just in case this bold but timid little sweetheart gets too shy to speak up. Victoria is cuter when she's being true to herself. I never expected that. She didn't just speak her mind. She wasn't holding back. Even when we were in bed, she'd say things that made me flustered. The first time I heard it, I nearly lost my composure right away. The second time I heard it, I acted like I didn't notice and kept focused on what I was doing. By the third time, I was fully enjoying it and secretly delighted. I had no idea where she picked that up. But somehow, it worked perfectly on me. Later I found out she had known all along that I was pretending to be deaf. She once mentioned how funny it was seeing me turn red with frustration in bed, too scared to say a word. Funny. I forced a cold smile. She tried to slip away into the corner. I caught her ankle, wrapped my arms around her waist, and leaned over her. Really is quite amusing. Come on. Repeat every single thing you've ever said word for word. Miss a single part, or add one extra, there'll be consequences. Before I moved forward, I leaned down and pressed my lips to hers. Now it begins. When I'm rich, I'll indulge. When poor, I'll abandon. If powerful. I'll submit if tempted. I'll comply. I'll confess if you don't hit me. But if you do, I'll start crying. I get upset when annoyed. And I spend money as soon as I have it. I'll pretend to be sick if I'm not. And I'll eat whenever I'm hungry. I'll drink when I'm thirsty. And I'll sleep when I'm tired. I won't do any chores. And I won't endure hardship. After another argument with Victoria, she suddenly started spouting off something strange, words tumbling out in rapid fire. She kind of made sense. Though, Mason, I want a little cake. Victoria stood with her hands on her hips, bossing me around, then turned and went to water the small rosemary plant she kept on the balcony. The weather was sunny today. My plants were watering hers. This kind of day is something I've been looking forward to for a very long time.